Due Process, winner of 21 regional Emmy Awards, including the 2010 New York Emmy for our coverage of voting rights and the 2012 Mid-Atlantic Emmys for Outstanding Interview Special and Outstanding Discussion Series. Due Process is a presentation of Rutgers School of Law, Newark, and the Edward J. Blaustein School of Planning and Public Policy. Studio facilities provided by the Rutgers ITV Studio, Division of Continuing Studies.
And this is one of those last pictures that was taken when he was 3 weeks before he died.
Died of an overdose, a death his mother believes could have been prevented if his friends hadn't been afraid to call for help. Erasing that fear, saving lives. It's the point of a bill that passed the legislature only to be vetoed by the governor. The fight for a Good Samaritan law, up next on Due Process.
Major funding for Due Process provided by the Fund for New Jersey, supporting informed citizens for an effective democracy.
Fatal overdose. Experts say death is not usually instant, and the victim's often not alone. Yet the deaths continue to add up, more than 700 each year in New Jersey alone. So some parents, practitioners, even legislators from both sides of the aisle say there's one simple way to get help when it's needed: remove the fear of arrest. I'm Raymond Brown.
And I'm Sandra King, and it's called the Good Samaritan Bill, a way of encouraging friends, fellow users, even dealers, to call for life-saving help by shielding them from prosecution. A small price to pay, say supporters, but the bill's been put in legislative limbo by conditional veto of the governor, despite appeals from parents who've paid the greatest price.
Jason was a beautiful human being. He loved people. He was a people collector. He was a wonderful son, very loving son.
Oh, Jason, what? You letting it out more? Oh, yeah.
He was a very normal kind of kid.
Oh, she's doing that.
Kind of the boy next door. He was in the Little League, and he went to summer camp every summer. He was just a very well-rounded kid that kept a big secret from the people very close to him.
A secret that surfaced only when Jason Sirk's parents arrived at this emergency room to find their teenage son dead of an overdose.
And one of the first things they asked was he on any medication? And the answer was no. And he was 19 years old. He was a healthy, big, very healthy kid.
Still, an autopsy would show that the Rutgers Newark sophomore had OD'd on Xanax and OxyContin, obtained on the internet from Mexico. Anonymous internet drug sales, a serious problem, but not the one that Senate Bill 851 was intended to address.
When people overdose on drugs, they usually don't die immediately. If they get medical attention, they don't die. Almost in every case, you can prevent the person who overdoses from dying. You call and you get help, that person lives.
But in an overdose crisis,
social pattern,
like this scene from the film Traffic.
Lou, he's breathing. Oh, God.
He's gonna die right here on the floor if you don't do something.
Fear of police, prosecution, panic can keep even good friends from getting help in time.
Okay, nobody has anything on them, right?
You know, the first thing is to save a life. They've been on unnecessary deaths and also accidents as a result of drug overdose, and that we wanted to give an incentive for people to come forth and try to help.
To pick up the phone and call an ambulance. What Jason Sirk's friends did not immediately do, says his mother, when he OD'd in this Rutgers Newark dorm.
There are opportunities to intervene and to make a difference.
His friends are said to have tried to revive him, but allegedly cleared his dorm room of drugs before they called for help.
To prevent this from happening, that is my goal too. And that's Jason's legacy too, to save other lives.
To save lives by inspiring passage of what's being called the Good Samaritan Bill, a protective shield for those who, in the presence of an overdose, do reach out for help, safe from the threat of criminal charges.
The first reaction is always about the other person. The first thought is, how can I help my friend? The second thought is, wait a minute, what's that going to do to me? And if we can get rid of that second thought, the person lives.
It's an argument that New York bought 2 years ago when it passed its Good Samaritan law, a law some say may have saved the life of the daughter of New Jersey rocker John Bon Jovi.
Life goes on, things happen, and this tragedy was something that I had to face too.
Stephanie Bon Jovi, a student at Hamilton College, was partying with friends on campus when she apparently overdosed on heroin. Her friends called for help. She recovered. They were safe from prosecution.
Where it's a matter of saving somebody's life and that minutes count, I think it's very important to get there and to do everything you can to encourage people to call for help in that kind of situation.
That from one of the state's most strident anti-drug voices.
We can't help somebody recover from drugs if they're dead.
So with that kind of surprising support and positive votes from both sides of the aisle, the veto from the governor came as something of a shock.
But what I'm not willing to do is to give people who commit harms on other people a free pass just because they picked up the telephone and called. I'm not going to do that.
Well, the governor has his own philosophy as far as this legislation is concerned. I'd rather err on the side of trying to help victims. That's what the intent of the bill is all about.
I'm sure the motive of the legislature was good. I mean, they want to save lives. But I support the governor's veto of this because, like him, I'm a career law enforcement officer. The person calling, is that the person who fed the drugs to the person now dying?
Look, if somebody is ODing in the presence of a dealer, I would want to encourage the dealer to make the call.
But Chris Christie's not so sure. So he's ordered an 18-month study to fix what he says are defects in the bill before he'll reconsider his veto.
I think it's one of these things that sounds good in the abstract. Oh, it's a Good Samaritan bill. They call it Good Samaritan. Good Samaritan? How about if they're not a Good Samaritan? How about if they're the person who supplied the drugs?
To Linda Sirks, ironically a drug prevention specialist who never dreamed that drug tragedy would strike her own home, the governor's position means heartache for other New Jersey families.
We know that we're losing about 700 children a year, and the fact that this bill was vetoed with an 18-month review process tells me that 1,000 kids are going to die in the next 18 months, and that's just not acceptable.
And if those numbers sound exaggerated, consider the National Center for Health Statistics' claim that the #1 accidental killer may now be overdose, surpassing even auto deaths.
But is that reason enough to turn an official blind eye on drug offense, especially one that involves a death? For some very different answers, we turn to State Senator Joseph Vitale, primary sponsor of the legislation, to Hamilton Councilman Kevin Mara, a member of the Governor's Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse, whose son Casey died of an overdose 5 years ago, and to Assemblyman Eric Peterson, a Flemington lawyer who sits on the Assembly's Law and Public Safety Committee. Welcome to all of you. Eric, let me start with you. Sure. You voted no on the bill.
That's correct.
And it seems to me that although we entertain all kinds of arguments on both sides and try to look at policy questions even-handedly, that an awful lot of the weight on this one falls on the side of those who say, let's save a life. And the policy argument on the other side is essentially, we won't give up one prosecution to save a life. Is that an oversimplification, or is that state the policy?
I believe it is. The problem that I had with the bill mostly was that we were going to, no matter whether the person survives or dies, even if that phone call is going to be made, that there's no criminal charges against the person who distributed the drugs to the individuals. And as I agree with the governor, prevention and deterrence will save more lives. And when you take away when you strip away all liability, criminal liability, for distributing drugs to somebody who dies from that, you're also stripping away part of the deterrence aspect. And I, as a father of 4 young kids, this is one of my greatest concerns: is what is going on? Is there a deterrence from them getting caught up in drugs and even potentially dying?
But Eric, do you question the truth of the claim that I think your 2 fellows here on the panel would state you can save a life this way, even if it's 1 life? Is it not worth doing? You're not giving a lifetime pass to the dealer who might be making the call.
Sure. You could have tailored the bill a little bit differently so that it wasn't such a broad, full-encompassing criminal liability being waived. The other thing about this bill, and there's some real flaws in this. If there's 3 people in the room, like that movie that you showed, only the one who makes the phone call gets to pass. The others are all going to get charged anyway. So there's going to be a lot of pressure for nobody to call because the other people in that room are not going to want to be held liable.
I don't want to pick on you, but that means you want to broaden the immunity?
Well, I think we need to really take a little bit of time to look at this bill a little bit differently and to come up with better options. And there is a better option. There was a better option that was passed by the legislature just recently. It's an antidote that could be distributed so that people who have a drug problem could have the antidote, and if they go into an overdose situation, the antidote can be administered and save a life that way without absolving criminal liability.
Well, I sponsored that bill, and that is a good bill, and it will save lives.
Does it take the place of the Good Samaritan?
No, it really doesn't, because you're not going to have thousands of these antidotes around college campuses where a lot of these overdoses take place, or in private homes or party sites around the state. I mean, the fact of the matter is the governor really, in due respect, punted on this issue. Just say we're going to study this for 18 months and then come up with an answer that would be satisfactory to him.
What about Eric's point that there is either empirical or anecdotal, strong anecdotal evidence that there's a deterrent effect that overcomes the saving of lives by having this kind of Good Samaritan bill?
I don't think for one moment that someone's going to contemplate taking more drugs or being more careless with their drug use because they think that they'll get a pass in case they have to call for help in an emergency. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It's just not logical. So when you have someone, and the bill would apply to if there were 2 or 3 people in the room, they all decide to make the call, just because the one person picked up the phone, all the other folks that are there potentially could also get the same shield. Again, that's up to the prosecution. This is about possession, that's about use, it's about some paraphernalia. But if there's a greater crime there, where if they walk into the room and there are 5 cases of cocaine, and 3 pounds of heroin, no one's walking out of that room without any handcuffs around them. So, but this provides for, in the most effective way, I think, someone. And we outlined this in the intro to the show. It will save lives, and it's not reckless. It's not going to deter or cause more drug use. And in terms of sending messages, the only message this sends is we care about saving a life, and if you do the right thing and you help your friend, that's better than not.
Kevin, for you, this is a personal issue as well as public policy.
Sure. In 2008, my son Casey, as Ray said, died of a heroin overdose. He died at home in his bedroom. And I'll tell you, if being outside of Trenton, if there's one thing that this bill has done, it's spurred debate. And I thank Sandy, you and Ray for your show, for getting an opportunity to debate it. But with regard to what I've experienced, because after my son died, we formed a nonprofit to help families with substance abuse. It's called City of Angels. But the majority of kids that we have lost, and it's probably somewhere around 20 since my son died, they've died at home alone. So this bill wouldn't have affected them. But the way we look at it is, and the senator said it, if it saves one life, then it's worth it. But the bottom line, it's about education, and the governor obviously needs to be educated on this, such as the kids that are using the drugs. It's not going to happen tomorrow when they're in using heroin that they're going to know that they're not going to be prosecuted. So the bottom line is this is
But could the governor be right when he says this is a flawed bill and I'm not going to sign it as written?
every bill is flawed. That's my feeling, is every bill is flawed. That's why they work to make it better, change it if you have to. And look, my experience is that the drug dealers who are selling the kids the drugs, they're not going home with them to do the drugs. You know, they're long gone by the time they overdose. And so, while I understand, because Governor Christie is a law and order politician, he's established himself that way, and I understand his thought process. But in this instance, the argument that he's trying to make, and the Senator had indicated that, you know, you still have the ability to prosecute someone if there's something else going on in that room. But the argument that he's trying to make, those drug dealers are long gone by the time these kids are overdosing.
Eric, for maybe 40 years, we've been having drug policy debates. And one of those broad debates is a balance between understanding that people who take drugs are frequently in a context where it's a healthcare problem, it's addiction, and there's a physiological and a psychological component to that. And there's obviously always a law enforcement concern. But in the clip we watched, the governor says it's a free pass to a drug dealer. And it strikes me that that's a rhetorical approach to something that needs to be approached in a much more refined way when you consider the continued debate we have and probably continued failure of drug policy in terms of just too many people incarcerated, too many people dying, and too much resources devoted to it.
Sure. I just want to clarify. You know, there is no two points I'd like to make. One, the statute clearly states that you will not be charged for any of these crimes, period. It doesn't, if it's two people in the room, the one person makes a call and it's his room and there's 30 pounds of cocaine in there, you can't charge him for it. The prosecutor doesn't have the discretion.
Let me stop you for just a second. Not true?
The prosecutor, there are mitigating circumstances where they can be charged.
Okay.
So,
go on, Eric, please.
That's not how I read the statute.
We read it differently, I guess.
And the second thing is, under the strict liability statute, which is the one that I'm most concerned about, if somebody dies from drugs, the person who dispenses the drugs, it doesn't mean a drug pusher on the corner somewhere who's selling them. It means the person who, maybe let's just say somebody drove, went, picked up the drugs, brought them back to a party that's happened. The person who went and bought them and then distributed them is now under strict liability for anything that occurs to any of those people who take those drugs. So when we think of drug dealers, we're always thinking about some person, but we're really taking this all the way down to the local level, to the actual person. Let's face it, in any school, there's kids out there who through peer pressure and other means get kids hooked on drugs. And those people are the ones that we're trying to deter here. And those are the ones that scare me to death when it comes to my kids and your kids and everybody else's kids. And that deterrence, that some suburban kid who's dispensing drugs could actually go to jail under strict liability on a first-degree crime, and I believe it's a 5-year minimum sentence, is a deterrent to those kids in those areas. And I'm hoping that deters other kids from getting hooked on drugs.
But it's a deterrent also to picking up the phone and saying, I need an ambulance, isn't it?
Well, we're talking about, we say we're saving, if we just save one life. If we deter people from pushing drugs on others, how many lives do we save that way? How many lives are really saving from not being under drug abuse? And I think that was the governor's point. There's a balancing act here. Deterrence probably saves more lives than the phone call does for that one situation. How do we balance the two? How do we balance deterrence and that?
All the hearings you've had over the years, how much clearly there is a concept of deterrence and it's part of our law system, but how much hard evidence is there on deterrence? I mean, it's kind of hard to balance an abstract number against the certainty that 5 calls might result in several lives being saved.
We don't know that. I mean, look, we don't do enough in terms of deterrence. We don't do enough in terms of drug education or drug treatment in this state, or in most of the states for that matter. And maybe that's a discussion for another day, but it's germane to this issue.
No, you can.
But well, maybe it is.
Do it right here.
But I mean, the fact of the matter is, the governor said, well, you know, and he gave me language. The governor's council asked me to consider language in the new bill that would be arrest first, ask questions later. Well, that's really counterintuitive.
What does that mean?
Which means that whoever is there, you call 911. The police come, the EMTs come, the cops come with them. Everyone in the room is arrested if there are drugs present, there's an overdose, paraphernalia drugs, or whatever. Then they ask questions later. Well, there goes the the Good Samaritan. There go those guys and those gals going to head out the door. They may make the call, they may not make the call, but they're going to leave that person there in most cases.
But let me ask you, we have three very sophisticated people here who've thought about this in depth. How do you get the message out to ordinary people that there is embedded in this an incentive for you to make the call if everybody knows at the same time everybody's going to be arrested? That's a pretty subtle message to convey to the general population if your objective is to encourage people to make a call.
And it's not going to work. I mean, if it gets out there eventually, and laws like this take time to get into everyone's knowledge, they'll say, well, yeah, make the phone call, we're still going to get arrested. So in my head, I may be saying to myself, I'm not going to make the call. Or at the moment of truth, you just freeze and you freak out and you're like, I got to go. And this happened hundreds of times in this state, whether it's drug overdose or alcohol overdose on campuses across the state. Kids just bail out and they leave their friends because they're afraid of getting in trouble. That's really, obviously the wrong thing to do because of the prosecution.
But isn't that if you're only going to protect, give immunity to the person who actually makes the phone call, stays at the scene, aren't you opening up everybody else who's in that scene, unless it's just two people there? The person who overdosed and the person who makes the phone call. Aren't you still doing the same? Where's that deterrence?
That's a good point, but doesn't that argue for broadening the scope of the immunity rather than narrowing it?
Well, I mean, that's why I think part of what the government wants to look at. I mean, it goes against the argument that this bill is going to have any impact.
You think it undermines the integrity?
I think most of the time this isn't just two people in this situation. And the other thing is that when those other people are going to not want to be there, they're going to have the same thing. They're going to show up with the police. The police are going to straighten it out. Who made the phone call? Who did what? And then everybody else is going to be in the same place. It doesn't have the same. There isn't going to be such a willingness. What they're all going to want to do is scatter. And the other issue here is that it doesn't do any deterrence at all. And there has to be a level of deterrence. We've got to think about deterrence in all this. Because
it's only the one case where if there is a get out of jail free, it's only on that one case. If that person continues to sell drugs and gets caught, there's no pass go.
Kevin, I want to ask you, I'm always concerned about the quality of debate, especially about drug policy, but broadly. What do you think, as a person who has a deep emotional as well as an intellectual investment in this, about the quality of the discourse? You say you're glad people are talking, but is it a debate that advances our understanding about drugs?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the Assemblyman has a good point when he talks about deterrence. If you look at most legislation, or at least a lot of legislation, it's a Band-Aid. This legislation, while well-intended and is good and can save a life, it's a Band-Aid. And as the Assemblyman said, when you look at deterrence, and you asked, Ray, what's a community going to do? How are you going to educate people? Look at Lacey Township, their RED program, which is raising and educating a drug-free community. They've got a great program going on. I invite you to go look at it, but it's got to start at the community level, because these kids are starting at 12, 13 years old. They're starting in your medicine cabinet, going to get Vicodin, Percocet, Oxycontin, taking them out and doing them. So it's not always coming from a drug dealer. And some of our kids are getting hurt playing soccer, and they're being put on Oxycontin. We have kids that are going in and getting their wisdom teeth pulled and given a prescription for 50 Percocet. So it's not always happening in this drug selling environment. But the dialogue is good, the discourse is good, and but there's got to be more.
Do you have reservations about this law, which doesn't pretend to solve all of the drug problems in New Jersey, but just deals with a situation where a life might be saved?
No, I think if it passed tomorrow, it would help. It's not the end all, the be all, but it would definitely help. And as I said earlier, I don't think that the bad guys will be getting away on this. But how long is it going to take to educate the kids who are using the drugs that they can call, without being criminally prosecuted? We have too many young people in jail now.
Joe, are we going to have a revised bill? And then Eric, I'm going to ask you if the governor will sign it. Is the bill going to be significantly revised?
Well, not significantly revised. It will be revised. I'm meeting with the Governor's Council to discuss changes in the bill, and we'll see where we fall. And it's been reintroduced. It's been the language that I don't really support, but I'll make changes in my committee.
We can ask Eric the totally unfair question about whether a bill, the revisions of which he hasn't seen, is going to be signed by the governor.
Well, it always depends on the
Is there a chance that
bill.
a bill with this general purpose will be signed by this governor? with the purpose to give some immunity to encourage some.
Well, I would never be as bold to speak for this governor.
No, but let me ask you, with 15 seconds left, let me
Sure.
just ask you, given everything you've said, I don't think this bill would satisfy you no matter what went into it. Is that true?
That's not true. That's not true. I'd have to see the bill. I had some grave reservations about the strict liability aspect being taken out.
And that was a real 15 seconds, so we are going to have to leave it there for now. With thanks to our guests for tackling a tough issue, and to all of you for watching. For more Due Process, all 17 seasons of our programs on demand, check out our website at dueprocesstv.rutgers.edu.
And be sure to join us here next week. Till then, for Sandy, Associate Producer Tanya Ivanova, and all of us here at Due Process, I'm Raymond Brown. See you next time.
Picture 3 college guys. They're in their apartment off campus and they're sharing drugs. One of them appears to go into an overdose. He nods off, not breathing well, passes out. One of the friends is kind of concerned, maybe we should do something. And the other friend says, are you crazy? We're gonna get arrested. Do you know what that'll do for your scholarship? It's over. Now let's put him to bed and I promise we'll check on him. Throughout the night, we'll just go in and check. And if things get really bad, then we'll call for help. The problem is both of the other friends fall asleep too. The first thought is, how can I help my friend? The second thought is, wait a minute, what's that gonna do to me? And if we can get rid of that second thought, the person lives.
Want even more insight on law and justice? Become a fan of Due Process on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and watch us on demand on YouTube.